Okay, my loves. I know there are a lot of you that are out there that are really wondering, how do I even set boundaries anymore? Maybe you didn't grow up with great boundaries. Maybe boundaries weren't really modeled well for you, or maybe you were told that you cannot have boundaries. Maybe you're tired of being gaslighted in your relationships, and you're tired of feeling crazy all the time and guilty for trying to make a difference in your life. If this is you, then I want you to come schedule a call with me. Let's chat about the Unashamed Image Program. The Unashamed Image Program is geared towards you specifically. I am going to be helping you in our next upcoming session of the Unashamed Image. I am personally going to train you how to not feel crazy when someone is gaslighting you, how to be able to stand your ground, to keep your boundaries intact, and to also see through the bull crap. I am also going to be teaching you how to set really confident boundaries that you can really rely on. And I'm going to help you communicate them in a way that really makes sense. Basically, I'm going to help you live a life free of shame and on your terms. If you are ready and you are done feeling all the shame and guilt for trying to set boundaries, if you are not willing to live another moment the way you are right now and in somebody else's shadow, then this is the time to schedule that call with me. It's completely free, no pressure, just love, just support. Go to www.erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. Scroll down the page to where it says, Let's Chat About Working Together. Click on that button and it'll take you to my booking page. If you're ready to live the unashamed life, schedule that call. Let's get you in the Unashamed Image Program, my loves. From my heart to your heart. Bye.
Hey everyone! Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle by Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching. And I, of course, am Erin Anderson, your host. If you're just joining this podcast, we talk about how I healed from my betrayal trauma and some of the things I've learned along the way as I continue to heal and as I coach other men and women through their traumas. Now, before we dive into this week's episode, let me tell you a little bit about my free Facebook group for women who are going through betrayal trauma due to a husband's addiction. In this group, women are able to voice how they feel about the struggle they're going through with the addiction, find a camaraderie of other women going through similar situations, get some detailed coaching from me, plus many other events or offers that I have going on. You can find me there at www.facebook.com/groups/The Other Side of the Struggle, on Instagram at Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coach. Just leave off the H at the end. Or come join our Facebook group for couples at www.facebook.com/groups/positive healing for LDS marriages and relationships. I've also been working on a surprise for all my listeners and followers, so keep listening, stay tuned, because I'll be announcing that in the next, hopefully, week. I know I've been promising this for a long time, guys, the last several weeks, in fact, but it looks like the surprise will be done and ready to launch probably by the end of this week, so I'm hoping by next week we will be able to have an announcement plus a place for you guys to go get this awesome freebie that will really help launch you into your healing and your just awesome life. Like, that's what I really am excited to help you guys create, okay? So with that, let's dive in. If you remember, last week was actually a bit of a longer episode. We had amazing Kushla Chadwick here with us last week to talk about the abundance tier and how we can create more abundance in our lives, because who doesn't want that? Like, really. I really feel like women especially should be able to have their own money. and be able to create with that money. That's something that I want to do with my own family. And when I'm in creation mode, I am not in trauma mode. And so the more we get into our creation and we step into those powers, I feel like the better off we are, the better we become, the more we can reach in and find out who we truly are, because we are inherent creators. We create things naturally. That's just something that we do. And because of that, when we step into that creative role, we actually start to step into who we truly are, who oh my goodness, who we were created to be. And so getting creative, yeah, like it is this first step to abundance. And I loved everything Kushla said in that podcast. Like I've already gone back and listened to it a couple of times because it was just so juicy. So definitely, if you haven't checked it out yet, go back, take a listen. It is well worth the time and effort. So, but today we are moving on. It's a totally new month. And we're going to start talking about boundaries. Yes, we are going to start talking about boundaries. And this is a great one because this is something a lot of people are asking about. Like, how do I set boundaries? This is not something that I know what to do. Like, I was never taught to set boundaries. I was never taught it was okay to set boundaries. Anytime I've tried to set boundaries, it blows up in my face. Like, those are a lot of the things that I hear from people. And even, my really, really, like, all my clients are amazing. So I shouldn't say just my amazing clients, but my clients who have done a lot of work themselves still struggle actually with boundaries sometimes. And even me, sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to have a boundary around this. And boundaries help us create, I feel like, some organization around our life, our time, and our self-respect, to be honest with you. And so it's a really important subject to discuss, in my personal educated opinion. So, but boundaries encompass so many things. They creating boundaries that don't get broken. Well, okay, let's be honest. Boundaries are actually made to be broken. Let's just say that. Let's get that out in the open right now. And I know I can hear you guys sit there thinking to yourselves, oh my gosh, like, how could you say that? I don't want my boundaries to be broken. But I'll be honest with you guys, it's not so much about what you guys want for a boundary. Like, you guys know when a boundary has been broken. It doesn't feel good. It's what you're questioning is, what do you do about it when it gets broken? Right? Because it's not the breaking, like, it doesn't feel good to you when your boundary is broken. But what becomes confusing about boundaries is what to do next when it does become broken. And I'll be honest with you. My boundaries do actually get broken a lot by other people, but I'm very good at knowing what I'm going to do next. And that's why I say boundaries that don't get broken. It's because I'm clear with what my next step is. When somebody does come up and break my boundary, I'm usually really good to step in and say, okay, let's deal with this right here, right now. Let's do this. Okay. And if you listened to last month we talked about the relational tiers. You've got your relationship with God, your relationship with self, your relationship with others, and your relationship with abundance. And each one of those sets of relationships actually require boundaries. And when you have good boundaries with yourself, especially, and that kind of comes in the form of organization, I feel, then you tend to have good boundaries with others, and you also tend to have good relationships, plus an awesome self-respect. I will tell you that the people that I have met that really, really need to up their self-respect also really have no clue what to do about their boundaries. Okay? So in these cases, one of the first things I do with my clients is I have them, excuse me guys, my voice is kind of cutting out. I have them sit back for just a second and think about what it is that they truly want. See how abundance is kind of a really big deal? When we have an abundance of what we want, we have good boundaries, to be honest with you. And, but you can't, if your boundaries are consistently being broken, you're more clear on what you don't want than what you do want. And remember, we're creators, guys. So a boundary is actually something you can create sitting down right here, right now. So, but it takes you getting clear with what do you want. So I take people through this exercise, and it can get a little bit annoying, to be honest with you, because having one person ask you the same question over and over and over again can feel like your boundaries are definitely being trodden on and broken and taken for granted, blah, 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 right? So, but what is it that you really do want? What is it you want? What is it you want? What is it that you want? What is it that you want?
So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. You know, they've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really, really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
And as I sit there and ask this question to my clients, I have them write immediately down the first thing that comes to their mind. I don't have them sit there and think about it. I don't have them sit there and ponder. I have them write immediately what comes down to their mind. And here's the reason why. Okay? Thinking too much and too hard about that question can get you into a tailspin. It can get you, again, thinking more about what it is you don't want. You can sit there and get really confused here. You can sit there and allow the thought process to go, oh my gosh, what is it that I want? What do I really want? Well, I know that I don't want my husband looking at pornography anymore. And I know that I don't want him in front of the computer. I don't want him comparing me to other women. I don't want, and all of a sudden, you've just gone negative. Okay? I don't want you there, because in the negative, that's where your subconscious actually stays stuck. Okay? Negative thoughts often lead to some sort of a fear, and when you're in fear mode, the next thing that comes up is fight, flight, or freeze. Okay? Well, there's definitely something to fight here, but you might not be able to fight a pornography problem in your home, especially when it comes to your husband's choices. That doesn't mean you can't make choices yourself, okay? But you can't make choices for your husband. You cannot tell him what to do, unfortunately. He still has to grow up. He still has to make his own choices, but what you do around the addiction makes the whole difference, okay? For you, and possibly for him. We know this. We've discussed this, right? Moving on. But if you can't run from the problem. It's always going to be there, okay? Because it's something you're constantly thinking about. If it's constantly something you're thinking about, well, it doesn't matter where you run. It's going to be in your head. It's going to follow you, okay? So what does your subconscious do? It freezes. And it freezes because it wants to protect you. This is a fear, a really big fear that comes up when you just start going into this negative, what I don't want pattern. You're sitting here trying to go into the don't want to find what you do want, and that's not where I want you. I don't want you frozen. We want your subconscious to start regurgitating and just spitting things out, okay? So even if it is crazy, I want a blue-footed booby, okay? Throw it out there. Write it down. Because what I don't want is I don't want you in fear mode. If you are in fear mode, you cannot create because you will freeze. Okay? So start asking yourself this question. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And write down. And you need to do this out loud because your brain thinks to itself. Your brain is actually trained to pay attention to your voice. Your voice is the voice it pays attention to the most, actually. Okay? And so because of that, when you say things out loud, it gets your brain actually thinking in a whole different direction and about what you want. If you're focused so heavily on the things you don't want, it's time to focus on the things you do want. You're pretty clear. You're already clear with what you don't want. Okay? That's already in your conscious mind, but what we want to do is open up the subconscious. So, as you sit here and do this, and I want you to do this for like 10, 15 minutes. I know that might sound a little intense for some of you, but it's actually around that 10 or 15 minute mark that you actually start getting into the depth of what it is you truly do want. You'll know it because you're going to get some emotion behind it, some excitement, maybe some crying, like, oh, this is what I've been wanting for so long and it feels so far out of reach, right? You're going to have emotion attached with this, okay? And after those 10 to 15 minutes are up, and you could go longer if you wanted to, definitely set. For me, it helps also setting like some meditation music on. So it could be something totally different for you. But whatever it's going to take to help you to focus, do. Okay? All right. But as you keep going through this process of what is it that I want? What is it that I want? What is it that I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? It will help you gain some clarity on what your next steps are. Okay? So for example, if I was thinking about my relationships, and I was actually talking to my husband about this the other day, and I actually was asking him, what do you want our relationship to look like? Because he's my equal team member right now. Like we work really well together. So this is a conversation I can have with him, okay? What is it that you really want our relationship to look like? And he thought about that for a second, and he told me, and I said, I think I want a lot of those same things too. Do you feel like we're doing good on achieving those things? And he thought about that for a minute, and he was like, I think we can definitely do better. And I said, I would tend to agree. So what is it that you think we need to do? Okay? But I remember being new to this whole healing sphere, and my husband being new to this whole healing sphere. And when we were both new, we were not on the same page at all with a lot of different things in our lives and in our marriage, honestly. And asking my husband what he wanted would actually send him into that negative mindset tailspin, right? And so I would have to do this with myself. What is it that I want? Well, I want relationships to show up and support me. Well, what does support look like? Okay, do you see how as I started getting deeper and deeper into my thought processes and finding out the things I did want, then I could actually start getting another level of questions. I want my relationships to show up and support me. What does support look like? Well, to me, support looks like them accepting me for who I am. I want my mom to be able to walk in my front door and not be totally disgusted when she sees a giant mess that my kids have left. I want my husband to stop looking at pornography and actually cherish me. I want my friends to not be backstabbers, to not be shady, to not be, what's the word? Fickle and fake. I want people who really are there for me, that I can have real conversations with. I want to have real conversations with all of my relationships. Well, as I sat down and started really getting clear with what support looked like what I actually really wanted from my relationships, and I got really detailed, okay? You want to go from vague to, like, I want my relationships to support me. That's actually really vague. To detail, what does support look like? How does this person, how do you want this person to support you? How do you want your husband to support you? Like, what would be ideal for you? How do you want your best friend to show up for you and support you? What would be ideal for you? How do you want your kids to show up and support you? What would be ideal for you? How do you want your mom and dad to show up and support you? What would be ideal for you? What do you want God to show up like? Like, how do you want that relationship to be? And the clearer you get, the more detailed you become, then you have an action plan. Okay? So, for example, I want my husband to cherish me. Like, I can't stop him from looking at porn, but I want him to cherish me. So what do I need to do? That's the next question. What do I need to do to be cherished? What actions can I take that help me be cherished? Well, number one, I can cherish myself. The more I cherish myself, the more I will know what being cherished feels like. And the more I know what being cherished feels like, the more energy I will have from being cherished. And the more energy I have from being cherished, the happier I will become. And those are results. Do you see that? And when people see results, like you having results, they actually kind of pay attention to that. And they want to know more about how did you get the result you did? And all of a sudden you can start having conversations. Okay? But when somebody acts in a way that I feel is not in accordance to my boundaries. So, for instance, like, I want my husband to take me on weekly dates. Like, I want him to still date me and still court me and to still cherish that relationship and still treat it like it's I would say a very cherished flower, because you have to still nourish, nurture, cultivate a relationship the same way you do a beautiful flower. If you want it to grow and if you want it to be a pleasure and a delight to you, it's something that you have to take a lot of time and a lot of work for. Okay? So that's what we do. We cherish it, we cultivate it, and one of those cherishing and cultivating actions is going on weekly dates, which is something we have slipped out of the habit of. And so I brought that up to his attention by saying something along the lines of, what do you think about doing weekly dates again and you taking over the planning of it? Well, I'm not really good at that. Okay. And how long do you want to not be good at that? Do you want to stay not good at that because it's not getting us a great result? Like, are you seriously okay with that? Well, no, not really. Okay. So what is it that you actually want then? Like, do you want to go on weekly dates? Yeah? Why? Well, I like spending time with you. I like spending time with you too, honey. So, do you think it might be beneficial to change the way you talked about that? a lot of our conversations go this way. You know, he talks this way to me too. He helps me really think through some of the things that I say as well. For instance, a belief, like one of his boundaries is he would like me to help out a little bit more around the house. And that sounds kind of silly because I hear so many women saying the opposite. I want my husband to help out around the house. And I will say that is one of my bigger struggles because I am very busy with my businesses and building my businesses and taking care of my kids and being mom. And, you know, these are all things that is just hard to kind of shut off sometimes. But he would like me to be a bit of a housewife sometimes. And not, to be honest with you, when I get in and I start cleaning and I start organizing, I actually really enjoy it. It's just getting started. You know what I mean? It's just getting started. But this was something he brought up to me in one of our boundary conversations, is that he would like me to start helping out more. And my first thought and the first thing that came out of my mouth was very similar. You know, I really struggle with that. I don't feel like I do a great job getting started. And he was really patient. He said, okay. Do you like having an organized and clean house? Yeah. Well, why do you like having an organized and clean house? Well, because it helps me think better. It helps me feel like I have more free time. It helps me feel like I can breathe, that I can relax. And he says, okay, so how long do you want your story to be that you are not good at getting started with the organizing and the cleaning? Right? These are also questions we get to ask ourselves. How long do you want to be everyone's scapegoat? How long do you want to continue throwing yourself under the bus just so you, quote unquote, don't rock the boat? How long do you, and then put in your mindset there, okay, from where you're at. How long do you really want to think these things? Because these are the things that are stopping you. These are the fears that are coming up. And that's what happens when we sit there and ask, what do we want? What do we want? Our subconscious actually starts to regurgitate some things because it's being told to. And I want you to take a look at the mindset you have around what it is you actually want, and ask yourself, how long do you plan on keeping that mindset? Because if you truly want something different, then it's time to start setting different boundaries with yourself. So one of the boundaries I set with myself around the cleaning is every single night for 15 minutes, I am going to organize and clean one area of my house. So maybe I'll go back through the linen closet and organize and clean that. Just wipe down the cupboards and fold everything, make sure everything is in its place. Okay? Maybe the next night it might be the cabinet above the washer and dryer. Maybe the cabinets under the bathroom sinks. And I'm going to throw away at least one thing that we don't use. Okay? And as I've been doing that, my house is actually starting to stay cleaner and more organized. And it's helping me think more organized, which is actually getting me more results, better results in other areas of my life. Okay? So if you want to create some crazy, awesome boundaries that don't get broken, then it's about time you start deciding what it is you truly, truly do want in your life. And deciding what it is you want in your life is going to take one boundary. and that is to not go down the rabbit hole of dissatisfaction. I want you to really think about what it is you do want. Okay? All right. So this week we're going to be definitely getting into boundaries with God, boundaries with self, boundaries with others, boundaries with abundance. Okay, and I actually have a really awesome special guest that is going to be discussing boundaries with abundance with us. But that's also going to be another surprise. That is coming soon as well. So, creating boundaries that don't get broken starts with you creating one boundary with yourself. That is asking yourself what it is you do want, making sure you carve out that 15 minutes, and do not allow yourself to get negative, okay? All right. Let me know what you guys come up with, too. I would love to hear in the comment sections. Come follow me on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is, and let me know what you're coming up with. Okay? All right. I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna